Welcome. Good morning. My name is Linda Pratt, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. Welcome to our service. Unitarian Universalism encourages an open-ended search for meaning in life and a commitment to asking our values to shape our actions. We are a pluralistic religion which draws wisdom from many sources. We welcome all people into our beloved community of whatever age, race, class, ethnicity, physical ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or religious background. We welcome especially those worshiping with us for the first time. Guests are welcome to participate in any activities in our community. Welcome team members are wearing green name badges and are ready to answer any questions you may have if you are a visitor or new to this congregation. Pastoral care team members are wearing yellow name badges and are able to talk with you if you have life transitions or need assistance. We invite everyone to join us downstairs after service for coffee and snacks so that we can get to know each other better. Thank you for being with us today.
I'm doing a spotlight. Do it on the microphone. This one? Comes out. I'm doing a spotlight, twofold. Number one, next week, Sunday, October 15th, this glorious space will be used by an internationally known composer and improvisational jazz artist, Mike Conrad, for the Mike Conrad Trio. Polyrhythms, well known in the Quad Cities for promoting live music, specifically jazz music, will be utilizing this space on the 15th. The concert is from 5 to 7. However, the doors will open at 4. Come and have a glass of wine and chat with other jazz lovers. And now, I'm here to give great thanks from the property committee for volunteers that showed up this last week to help paint the outside of the building. We're painting the entire exterior of the building, giving this old girl a great facelift, very much needed. Your contribution of time and painting skills is greatly appreciated. Oh, and there was an anonymous donation given towards the property committee to offset this cost. Thank you.
Thank you, choir. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Gates Thomas. Yes, that's backwards. And today marks exactly 11 months since I came on board as music director for this congregation. Musicians are not always appreciated for their speaking. The religious services team has taken a bit of a leap of faith in allowing that to happen, so whatever your expectations were for this morning, I hope I don't disappoint any of them. Our service this morning is dedicated to a special kind of connection, our connection with the universe, in particular through the art and practice of creativity. We open with these words from Tom Schad. My friends, there is a power at work in the universe. It works through human hands, but it is not made from human hands. It is a creative, sustaining, and transforming power that we can trust with our lives and our ministries. Trust in that power. We are together held by that power. We begin this morning's service, as every Sunday, with the lighting of the chalice, the symbol of the Unitarian Universalist movement. Miriam Andrews-Ullman will light and extinguish the chalice for us today. Please join in the unison reading by Sean Trapp, which appears in your order of service and on the video monitor. Our chalice is a reminder that the fire within ourselves is the same fire that illuminates the universe, and that though the void be vast, and our earthly home be but a pale blue dot, and our earthly experience be but a blip in the cosmic timeline, all the universe is connected. And now please rise for our opening song, number 298 in the gray hymnal, Wake Now My Senses. The lyrics will also appear on the monitor. There are 5 verses, 2 are on the extra page. That's a note for the piano.
Creation, your
In that spirit of open attentiveness, please take a few minutes to connect with the people around you.
All right, if the children would like to come forward, we've got a little message. Hey, welcome back. Today, we will hear the infinite wisdom found from the poem The Farmer and the Queen by the ever-prolific Shel Silverstein. "Well, she is coming," the farmer said to the owl. "Oh, what shall I do? What shall I do? Shall I bow when she comes? Shall I twiddle my thumbs?" The owl asked, "Her?" The queen, the royal queen. She will pass by the farm today. Shall I salute?" He asked to the horse, and the horse said, "Nah." We got to reuse. "Shall I give her a gift?" he asked the wren. "A lovely memento for her to keep? An egg, or a peach, or an ear of corn?" And the wren said, "Cheap." "Oh, this one we got to suspend disbelief on this. But should I curtsy, or should I cheer? Or, here's her carriage now. Oh, what should I do?" he asked the dog. And the dog said, "Meow." And so he did, and so she passed. Oh, tra-la-la, she smiled. She did, he told the sheep. And the sheep said, "Bah." And now if you kids would like to join me downstairs, we're going to talk a little bit about creativity and maybe make something ourselves.
Good morning. I'm Joanne Macheko, a member of the Pastoral Care Associates Ministry team. As we gather today, let us pause to reflect upon what lies in our hearts. In this time of sharing, we take a moment to recognize our personal joys and sorrows and read from the book of joys and sorrows those personal events that you have chosen to share. And today we have a wonderful joy. Katie Murdy reports that Anne and Daryl Toady are celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary this weekend. Are there any joys or sorrows on YouTube? Low Judas.
Well, wishes as I come from a knee surgery are so nice.
Okay, everyone hear that? Tom Low Judas was thanking everyone for their well wishes as he recovers from his knee surgery. For what has been shared and what remains in the quiet sanctuary of our hearts, we are grateful. Let us become aware of the energy that brings us together in beloved community as we share a time of silent meditation. May we open our minds and hearts to a place of quiet, to a silent prayer, and for the healing of pain and the comfort of love. And now you are invited to come forward during the musical meditation to light a candle for your own personal joys or sorrows.
Good morning. I'm going to read a poem by Anne Knish, Opus 150. Oops. Sounds, pure sounds, nothing, vibrancies of the air, and yet, this summer night, there are crickets shrilling beyond the deep bassoon of frogs. They cease for a moment as the rattling clangor of the trolley bumps by. I hear footsteps hollow on the pavement now deserted and blank of sound. They die. The crickets are now sleeping. Even the leaves grow still. And slowly, out of the blankness, out of the silence, emerges on soundless wings the long, sweet, sloping rise and fall of far viol notes. The madness, the mad of nirvana, the faint and spectral dream music of my heart's desire.
Thank you, Kathy. Curious to know about those of you here this morning, and that includes remote attendees, if you would respond through chat. What kinds of activities do you engage in that are creative? Choir. Somebody said music. What did... Drawing? Conversations. Cooking. Yoga. What was over here? What, watercolors? Stitching. Making pottery. Letter writing. Play therapy. As in drama or play? Handbells. I'm really glad to see all this creative energy, and to be honest, I am not surprised, because in the 11 months that I've been with you, I've noticed tiny telltale clues just in the way you sing hymns. You do not mumble. You can match pitch. Have you heard Happy Birthday sung in public lately? I heard it the other day in a restaurant in 12 keys simultaneously. You can find the backbeat. You know when it's better to snap your fingers instead of clapping, or not keep time at all. And best of all, when goaded into doing it wrong, you refuse. I saw you do this just a month ago, and I was so proud of you. Thank you. All these clues tell me that you take music seriously, and that's a reliable proxy for your attitude toward creativity of all kinds. I'm sad to say that this admirable trait, however, increasingly moves against the current. This society's owners would have us believe that the power of creativity is restricted to an elite, a creative class of ideas people, people who are deputized to think and write and speak for everyone. These are the people who matter, the thinking goes, because of their education, the value of their opinions, and the importance of their expertise to our economy. I'm reminded of the Donald Fagen song, IGY, which stands for International Geothermal Year, aka 1959. This song posits a space-age utopia, complete with a just machine to make big decisions, programmed by fellows with compassion and vision. We'll be clean when their work is done. We'll be eternally free, yes, and eternally young. This paradigm serves only special interests, those who would restrict creative power, or worse, use it as a weapon. Those who, for example, channel their creative energies into designing financial instruments so complex that they can neither be understood nor unwound, and then parachute into their economic bunkers, detonate their bombs, impoverish the nation, and claim the fraudulently gained windfall as their just reward for their creative genius. Such notions and such uses of creativity are based on the falsehood that only special people can create. Take it from someone who has practiced regular creativity as a crucial part of a 40-year career, it just ain't so. You, every one of you, have within you the true power of creation. Creativity is your human birthright, a gift from your Creator, and your surest means of connecting with the universe. Creativity is not something that is only within your ability, it is your very purpose. For that force which created the universe did so as a means of extending itself. We ourselves are its instruments. We are meant to be creative. This is not the same as saying you must work in the arts. It does not mean you have to change careers, move far away, move your money around, or get a divorce. Keep all that drama on the page or on the stage. What this does mean is that everyone must satisfy the human spiritual need to create. This might be through your work, or it might not. In certain lines of work, creativity could be dangerous. There are lots of valid reasons to discourage, for example, creative approaches to accounting, brain surgery, air traffic control. But as people, CPAs, surgeons, and ATCs also possess the means and the necessity to be creative somehow. Like everybody, they require creative outlets for their mental, emotional, and spiritual survival. In this sense, we are all as dependent upon exercising our creativity during our waking hours as upon our subconscious doing the same while we sleep. The phrase tuning in derives from radio, and you could imagine the creative powers of the universe as a 24/7 cosmic radio signal. Human beings come standard equipped with their own transmitter and receiver for these signals, or as Anne Kanish called them, these vibrancies of the air. The creative process requires a leap of faith that not only does the universe intend for you to create, but it will provide you with the means to realize your ideas. It does this when you tune in. Tuning in requires self-acceptance, an environment of safety, comfort, and acceptance, and a state of spiritual and mental quiet in order to hear the faint and spectral dream music of your heart's desire. The first step, especially when seeking inspiration for a creative project or idea, is to ask the universe for guidance and assistance. You might ask, where should I start with this work? Or I got a good start on this yesterday. How do I carry it forward? Then pay careful attention. Take note of what you observe around you. Watch and listen carefully for the universe's response. Accepting it, whatever source from which it comes, even if it seems like the answer that you get is for the birds. During his American residency in the early 1890s, the Czech composer Antonin Dvorak spent 2 summers in Iowa, in the Czech and Bohemian community of Spillville, where he could relax in an environment much like home. His routine, Darcy Henderson, was to rise at 4 a.m. and take a walk in nature before returning to spend the morning composing. The first work he composed in Spillville was a string quartet, now known as the American String Quartet, and the third movement of that work is based on a bird call that Dvorak heard on his morning walk. Duke Ellington also recognized these hints. One evening in 1959, while riding through Florida in a car between gigs, he heard the call of a mockingbird. We were a little too pushed for time to go back and thank the bird, he said, but he wrote down the call for Billy Strayhorn to fashion into one of their most beloved orchestral works. For John Lennon, the consummate indoor kid, inspiration often came from technological rather than natural sources. He liked to live in a soup of mass communications, half-read newspapers and magazines scattered all over, books open, radios and TVs babbling away at low volume, his artist studio spilling out a constant background of changing sound and visuals. One day, while teaching himself the major chords based on the white keys of his electric piano, he heard the European-sounding police sirens in the distance. Through this electronic mishmash of media murmur, piano chords, and distant sirens emerged Lennon's greatest creative masterpiece, I Am the Walrus. What the creative practice is really about is learning to give the universe control of you, your process, and your creation. Well, I expected it to come out this way, but it looks like this is what it wants to be instead. How many of you in pottery or sewing have ever had that experience? Yeah. This is the universe itself in the act of spontaneous creation, putting its own spin, mistakes even, on your work. We are wise to gently accept these suggestions when the universe offers them. As a protective measure, artists must keep their practice special and personal. Your artistic practice must always remain your sanctuary, with a portion of it set aside for your enjoyment alone. Outsiders may not enter this sacred space. In a 1980s interview, Paul McCartney reminisced about the Beatles' last live gig in San Francisco in August 1966. He said, yeah, by the time we got to Candlestick Park, we knew this just wasn't fun anymore, and what's the point? You've got to keep some fun in everything you do. Always keep a little bit in it for yourself. But also set aside a little bit to give away. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all the financial support for our many ministries from among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and institutional well-being. This month, we are sharing the undesignated plate offering with the community meal, this congregation's oldest surviving social outreach program, which is now a broad community effort coordinated through Churches United of the Quad Cities. Community Meal purchases ingredients, prepares and serves meals for the hungry at Zion Lutheran Church. We now invite you to participate in the blessing of giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts of the congregation. Please be as generous as you are able.
A poem by Anne Kanish, Opus 80. Oh, my little house of glass, how carefully I have planted shrubbery to bloom before your transparency. Light is too amorous of you, transfusing through and through your pains with an effulgence never knew. Sometimes I am terribly tempted to throw the stones myself. This is Anne again, Opus 118. If bathing were a virtue, not a lust, I would be the dirtiest. To some, house cleaning is a holy rite. For myself, houses would be empty, but for the golden motes dancing in sunbeams. Tax assessors frequently overlook valuables. Today they noted my jade, but my memory of you escaped them.
Thank you, Jan. And thank you with sincere gratitude for all the gifts of time and treasure that you give for this congregation. Did you perceive a certain incongruousness or discontinuity between the first and second readings? Perhaps a lack of cohesion? Maybe you're wondering what's going on here, or what's the connection between these two poems, or was Anne Kanish really serious? Well, the answer to that last question is no. Anne Kanish wasn't even a real person. Anne Kanish was a pen name, and all of the Spectra poems were written as satire. The story behind their creation is as rollicking and riotous as the poems themselves, and in more ways than you might imagine, the entire story hits very close to home. It begins with Witter Bynner, known to his friends as Hal, who was a poetry critic and editor for McClure's, Harper's, and several New York poetry journals. In February 1916, Bynner took a train trip out west to visit an old Harvard classmate. Stopping first in Chicago, he spent an evening with friends at a performance of the ballet Spectre of the Rose, danced by Massenet. The intermission conversation turned to the absurdity of the recent schools of creativity, particularly in poetry. Bynner, who despised Keats, Pound, and Eliot, the modernists, determined on the spot to satirize them. Sure, he said to his friends, there are the imagists and the vorticists, but have you heard of the spectrists, the new poets who've just appeared in Pittsburgh? They're the ones to watch. Realizing he had given himself a challenge, Bynner got back on the train the next day and wrote the first 3 Spectra poems. 2 hours later, he arrived at his primary destination, Davenport, the home of his Harvard classmate and fellow poet, Arthur Davison Ficke. Arthur Ficke grew up in this congregation. His mother, Fanny Davison, was a lifetime member. After graduating from Harvard and the University of Iowa Law School, he returned to Davenport in 1907, and for the next 15 years, he practiced law in partnership with his father, traveled widely, became an expert in Asian art, and published several volumes of his own poetry. Known internationally as the poet's poet, Ficke was recognized as the leading sonneteer of his day, and that choice of form gives you important insight into his aesthetic preferences. On arriving at the Ficke home just south of Vanderveer Park, Hal Bynner shared his idea for a spoof. In the words of William J. Smith, Ficke, who was just as irritated as Mr. Bynner by the schools of the moment and who also thoroughly enjoyed a good joke, entered immediately into the spirit of the occasion. In fact, so absorbed did the poets become in their productions that the constant composition and recitation of spectric verse became too much for Evelyn Ficke, who ordered them out of the house until they had finished their manuscript. Accordingly, they did what we all do when we wish to be secretive. They went to Moline. Checked into a hotel, and as Ficke put it, in 10 days, from 10 quarts of excellent scotch, we extracted the whole of spectric philosophy. In an unpublished essay, Ficke describes a moment where Bynner completely connects with the creative energy of the universe. They were in the hotel dining room, and Bynner decided purposefully to slip off his chair, and his motive being only what Ficke called the commendable one of startling the attendants into violent hysterics. Once order had been restored and the cheese souffle removed from the dining room floor, the host remarked sadly but patiently, "How terrible to entertain a lunatic." With a shriek of voluptuous and joyous recognition, Bynner dashed immediately to the study to write in the persona of Emanuel Morgan his renowned Opus 104, which begins, "How terrible to entertain a lunatic." As Smith wrote, there must have been many other occasions during the period of composition. The poets seized on everything that was in the air. The air was filled with specters, which were all channeled into the appropriate spectra. Besides this image of the poets just pulling ideas out of the air, this story also explains why the poems from our second reading seem so absurd. They were written that way. Well, the spectra ruse succeeded beyond anything the writers had anticipated. Spectra is the greatest literary hoax of the 20th century and perhaps of all time. Its provenance, the miracle of Pittsburgh, was swallowed hook, line, and sinker by elites and public, and poets great and small were completely taken in by the spectric innovations. It's easy to see why. The language and themes are completely modern. The structure of spectra, if you can call it that, finds its closest modern echo in a work created more than 50 years later, the White Album. The title of this reflection, Rain Dancing, refers to ways we can prime ourselves and the universe in preparation to create. Many of the tactics for rain dancing actually happen before you sit down at the easel or take up the camera or put on point shoes. They are rooted in the idea that the creative power is infinite. Scarcity thinking and self-denial have no place here. These things stifle creativity by robbing it of its joy and pleasure. In her book, The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron writes, "Remember that art is a process, and the process is supposed to be fun. Our creative work is actually our creativity itself at play in the field of time. At the heart of this play is the mystery of joy." Since our inner artist is like a child, we might think of this in terms of our own childhood. Do you recall how easy it was for you as a child to enter into the realm of your own imagination? Wow! Stars! Unicorns! Pirates! Pretty colors! Squirrel! You can project anything onto a blank slate, and with imagination at the forefront of their consciousness, children do. This is one of the many valid reasons that we do not administer LSD to children. For adults, however, as the actual workings of the world lose their mystery to us, we also lose that sense of romance and fantasy that we felt as children. Exploration, innocence, mystery, fantasy, these central impressions of childhood are absolutely essential for putting your inner artist in the right space to create. Entering this spirit of play is the first step in establishing connection with the creative energies of the universe. Well, how do we do that? How do we start the rain dance? Your mileage may vary, but for many artists, this step comes with kinesthetic helpers. Albert Einstein once remarked in exasperation, "Why do I always get my best ideas in the shower?" In the Aaron Sorkin play, A Few Good Men, 3 lawyers are trying to decide how to tackle a case, and the lead counsel says, "Where's my bat? I can't think without my bat." He finds his baseball bat, and while making practice swings at imaginary pitches, he connects with his ideas. 11 weeks ago, Alice Martin spoke from this pulpit on where do our stories come from. In preparing the music for that service, when I asked her what her reflection would be about, she replied, "Let me get back to you. I'm going to go write it now while I mow." These repetitive physical activities make for ideal rain dancing. Walking, jogging, husking corn, peeling potatoes, raking leaves, pulling weeds, sewing, washing dishes, washing the car, painting the trim, fixing a hole where the rain gets in. All these tasks present us with a kaleidoscope of stimuli. They busy our hands and our bodies and connect us with the physical world, leaving our mind free to wander where it will go. My grandfather, who farmed nearly his entire life in Iowa County, once said to me, "Spirituality is a matter for the soul. Religion is nothing but the doctrines of flawed men." I wondered about that, but when he said it, it hit me that there is a great deal of time and incentive to think and dream when your eternal view is the south end of a northbound mule. Just like these steps of the rain dance, artists have talismans, trinkets, baubles, tchotchkes that may have little or no intrinsic value, but to the artist, a cherished symbol of their personal creative process. I have mine. These ratty old high tops are my Lucky Chuckies. I purchased them in my first year as a student at Berklee College of Music in Boston. I wore them all the time and wore them out, as you can see. That year was a period of incredible artistic growth and my first professional triumphs. After I moved to New York, these took on even more special meaning for me as a reminder of friends and as a sort of rabbit's foot. To protect them, I stopped wearing them outside, only in the studio. And to this day, if I'm working on a project that's very special to me, I ask the help of the universe by putting these on. You may think I'm nuts, but I've done my absolute best work while wearing these. When I have them on, ideas come fast and furious, solutions to problems magically appear, and the work goes well. The Spectra hoax was maintained for 2 years, but its success was met with mild chagrin by the actual writers. When the 10 quarts of scotch ran out and Hal Binner had to return to New York, the two poets swore out a statement that the whole thing had been intended as satire and hoax. Evidently, they themselves realized that some people might take the work seriously. This is a reminder to us that the universe has its own purposes, and our responsibility ends when the work is complete. The response to it is for others. A sense of detachment, therefore, toward your previous creations is a very healthy thing. On the seventh day, God rested. The experienced yogi always includes a period of rest and relaxation at the end of a session as a reward. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. For the artist, this might be physical rest, but it will also be a time to inspire yourself anew, to guard against burnout. Too much output with not enough intake, and you will find your ideas running dry. You will feel creatively adrift, dried up, burned out, because you have been drawing on the creative force without replenishing it. You replenish and recharge by filling your consciousness at rest with inspiration. New ideas, experiences, images, feelings, sounds, and aromas. These go into the creative cauldron within you, wherein they are stewed to realization. I imagine that for most of you, coming here is one way that you replenish and recharge. And God saw that it was good. It was very good. This passage from the Genesis poem reminds us to celebrate when the work is done, to give yourself a pat on the back and savor the accomplishment. This is reward and incentive for your next project because the work never ends. 2 weeks ago, I gave a talk at the German American Heritage Center, and 30 seconds after I was done, I got a text message from my partner, Angel, who said, "Brazilian steakhouse to celebrate?" Angel knows how I can get that Christmas morning feeling. And after seeing how intensely I'd been working on that project, he had just the ticket. The meal cost more than I made on the lecture. But I told myself, I'm worth it. And I needed the incentive to turn around and do it all over again because I had to prepare this message for you this morning. I hope in this overlong reflection that I've managed to communicate some of the essence of the creative process. The acts of connection, listening, taking down the directives of the creative force, being willing to act as its channel. I hope, too, I've managed to convey a sense of the permanency, the constancy, the infinite activity that is creation itself. Even in its non-rhyming English translation, the anaphora of the Genesis poem provides a constant underlying musical loop. God created, God created, God created. The Genesis reading ends, but creation itself does not, ever. This is the way of the universe, accepting all its creations with delight and gratitude and joy, without shame or embarrassment or regret, accepting even its mistakes. In the 1978 movie Oh God, the title character played by George Burns, asked if he made any mistakes, responds with alacrity, "The avocado. I made the pit too large." He doesn't really diss the avocado or withdraw it from circulation. After all, there's a lot of richness in the avocado, and God saw that it was good. This God, as portrayed by George Burns, is just engaging in the typical Monday morning quarterbacking. I should have done it this way. I'll get it better next time. And just like baseball season, there's always a next time. Creativity is not an act, but a practice. The creative force never stops working, and we see its abundance everywhere, as in the uncountable snowflakes that swirl down to earth. No two alike, each one custom made. They last for only a few minutes. So what if they melt as soon as they hit the pavement? The creator looks at that and says, "They just look so pretty coming down. I'll just make more of them tomorrow." There's lots more where that came from. May it be so. Our closing song is number 34 in the Gray Hymnal, "Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire." The lyrics will appear on the monitor. Please rise. Please join us in sending our light out into the world as we extinguish the chalice with the unison words appearing in your order of service and on the monitor. We extinguish this flame. Our closing words come from Norman Mailer. Reminded that we are part and participants of the universe, let us go forth from the quiet and the music of this hour, encouraged to strive toward faithfulness to the best in ourselves, in others, and in the entirety of creation. Go in peace, and blessed be. You may be seated for the posting.